Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Crafty Concepts with Erin. I have a scrapbook layout for you today. I've got 3 photos. This is myself and one of my besties, and we were just enjoying some time out on this high mountain lake close to where I live, paddleboarding, which is so relaxing and fun. And so I've got these printed with the white border, matted on lagoon cardstock, so they really pop against the background. And you can see, looking at my paddleboard, there is that lagoon color and then some orange, and it's just going to work perfectly. So I have the Cape Cod collection. If you guys have been watching my videos for a while, you know I've been having tons of fun with this paper pack. It's really inspired me. I've been enjoying it immensely, and there's lots of videos where I focused on more of the beach aspect. It's very beach ocean vibe, but I'm going to show you how you can use this paper pack for lake photos, and it's going to work out perfectly. So you can see this one definitely has that strong beach, presence with the surfboard and the palm trees and then shells and whatnot. But the other side is happiness comes in waves. That's going to work perfectly for any water themed layout. You could even go to like a water slide park, or even kids playing in the bathtub. You could do something cute with, that, because how fun was bath time when the kids were little, right? So definitely want to use this one. I'm thinking about pulling in this little, I only have a scrap of this left. It's got the palm leaves on the other side, which is very tropical, great for tropical beach getaways, but I might use that. And you can see, as I mentioned, there's orange in my paddleboard and in the paddle, and kind of an orangey, pinky orange tone in my friend's shirt. So in the workshop collection, they have bonus pattern papers, which is where this one's from. And you can see they brought in nectarine, and it plays really well along with this collection. So definitely want to use that. We're going to avoid the anchor, but the stripe works well. So I think I'm going to go with these papers. Maybe this one. We'll see how it goes. We'll let it develop. And yeah, let me grab my Versamat really quick. Since I only have 3 photos, this is going to be a single page layout, and I'm going to build it on a sheet of white daisy cardstock. I just put a removable glue dot in each corner so that my base layer stays put, and that's going to help me get all of my bits and pieces lined up, left, right, top to bottom. Just make sure it's on your Versamat straight, or that defeats the purpose. So I had a couple thoughts for my photo configuration. I was actually thinking of maybe something like this with the title in the middle. And let me show you what I'm going to use for my title. I've got a couple stamp sets. This one's called Summer. I know it's a little bit hard to see. Let me grab the catalog for you so you can see that clearly, because I've already inked it up. In the catalog, this is the July-August 2023 catalog. You can see that awesome artwork on the front featuring this same collection. I love all the layers. But if you turn to page 28, there is that stamp they call Summer, and very appropriately named. But I'm going to use this for my title, and I also want to use these aviators. Do you see how they have like the waves, or that could be layers of the sky in the mountains? You could do all sorts of different things with this coloring of these. You could put a sunset in there. You could really get creative. But my friend and I are both wearing aviators, so I thought that was very perfect. And then the summer is going to go maybe right here, is kind of what I'm envisioning. And then I also have this Let's Kayak stamp set. And anything shaded in the blue-green color has a coordinating die. You can get it without the dies, but I love having the dies, especially for like the fishing pole, because it's kind of an intricate little cut. Much easier to die cut that. So that is this one here, and I love this. The water is my happy place. Explore every river bend. Let's kayak into the sunset. Now, I'm not kayaking, I'm paddleboarding, but to me, if you look down on that, of course, when you're paddleboarding, you only have one paddle, but let's not get caught up in perfectionism, right? It's going to work perfectly for paddleboarding. There is a little sun on here paddleboarding, but I want to use this and the life jacket and maybe the paddle. So really cool stamp set. I'm excited to use this one. It was kind of like, oh yes, must have that one. Before I start stamping, what I was kind of thinking, I definitely want to use this one. You know what? I have a scrap of that. Let me grab my scrap. There is no sense in cutting into a whole sheet of paper when we already have some partials, right? So this one is 7.5 inches, and let's see, I know I want to use this one here. So I'm kind of thinking maybe we could do something like this and then put the stripe paper. I'll cut the stripe paper down, but let's just kind of tuck it under here for now to see how that looks. Could do something like that. That makes a really nice base. And then put our photos on there and then our title through the center. We could do something like that. I might want some white space. I do like a little white space. So these are kind of, busier patterns. And if you just add a little bit of white space, sometimes that makes all the difference. So maybe we'll just add a little border around the side. Before I get carried away, let's go ahead and stamp the title. I am going to use my Misty stamp positioner here. Now, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, this one does not have coordinating dies. So I'm going to fussy cut these letters out. I mean, they're like block style letters, so it's pretty easy to, cut around these. And I love that it's just one stamp, so they're not individual letters, so that makes it super easy. If you don't want to fussy cut it, stamp it on a piece of white paper and then cut a little rectangle, or you could even stamp it right onto your background if your design allows for that. So we'll just kind of put it in the Misty, pick that up with the Misty door, and then I'm going to grab a scrap of white daisy. We'll just pop that in, make sure it's in the corner, and then secure that with your magnet. Now I am going to be coloring this in. Whenever I'm using my Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers, I use the Intense Black ink. It is a solvent-based permanent ink and it's alcohol marker friendly. So I know it's super confusing. There's so many black inks out there and they all kind of have different claims to fame. So anytime you're going to be coloring, this is a good one. Now today, I am going to be using these new colored pencils. These are also by Spectrum Noir, which I love the markers. I'm a huge fan, but Close to My Heart just had their new their annual convention, and this came in the convention bundle. So I thought, you know what, I've got it. I'm going to try it out and let you guys know what I think. But let's go ahead and get this inked up. So where I was going with that is I don't know if you would necessarily need to use an ink like this with those colored pencils. I am going to have to do some experimenting because they're dry. They're not a wet coloring, medium like a marker is. So we've inked that up. Go ahead and close the door. You want to apply even pressure. Now there's some intricate designs in there, so you don't want to smash it. You can actually kind of blur or distort your lines if you are too heavy-handed, which I tend to be. That looks pretty good. A few of my palm trees don't look perfect, so I just made sure that was back in the corner, and we'll repeat that process one more time. This is the biggest benefit to a stamp positioner. Not everybody likes these, and you definitely don't have to use it. So they are kind of a higher price point, and the blocks work just fine. But if you didn't get a great impression, or if you struggle with that, then maybe consider something like a stamp positioner. Alrighty, now I'm gonna let this dry. It does, I would smear that if I touched it. So just give it a couple minutes. You could hit it with the heat gun if you wanted to, but I'm just gonna let that air dry. Actually, while I have everything out, let's go ahead and stamp all the other images. So I have the sunglasses from that same summertime stamp set, and then the paddle, the life jacket, and this the water is my happy place, all from Let's Kayak. So I am going to be coloring these images, well actually all the images. So I thought, let's just stamp all of them and let them dry. I've got my piece of paper in here. Now these three I'm going to die cut those out. So just make sure you leave room for the metal die because it does add a little bit of a white border. We'll repeat the process with our Intense Black ink, and this is kind of handy too because I can do all of these images at once, making it a little bit faster. And I know a lot of us, our dream is to scrapbook faster, right? So here's a little tip for you, and it will help you, just speed up the process a little bit. Get more done in a shorter amount of time. I just got this on Amazon, and I'm so used to using my fingers that I forget about it. So trying to train myself to use this. It's just like a little, you know, the air hockey. Remember, you guys play air table hockey with the little pucks and everything? That's what it reminds me of. But it's got this little felt bumper on it, so you can just slide that over the door. Now you can see that sometimes you just need to press down. You don't need to ink it up. You just didn't get a certain area. But I do want this a little bit more intense. So I'm going to use my intense black ink and darken that up just a little bit. Okay, we'll try that one more time. Press, press, press. See, I'm doing it again. It's right in front of me. And this ought to do the trick. Yeah, I like it. I've had quite a few questions about the die cutting process, and I promised I would show it in my next video. So I am going to do that, and I really appreciate that the thin metal dies with the Close to My Heart stamps come on their own magnetic sheet. That is a magnet. You don't have to keep it in the plastic, but then it tucks down in the envelope with the stamp set so nicely. For this one, I just have a circle that I'm going to cut that out with. Most all of us crafters, if we have a die cutting machine, we have a set of circle dies. And if you don't, I highly recommend it. So I line these up and then I want to hold them in place. Now some die cutting machines have magnetic plates. I do, and I still find sometimes they shift a little bit. So I like to use this Post-it removable labeling tape. I ordered that on Amazon. It's a giant roll. It's lasted me forever, and it has just the right amount of tack. You can use washi tape, but sometimes I find, depending on the washi tape, after you die cut it, it really smashes it down, and it could kind of rip your paper when you go to peel it up. So this one works really well, and it is never an issue. So I'm just lining it up, just a couple little pieces of tape, and then these, you can reuse them over and over again numerous times before they lose their tackiness. Now the sunglasses don't have a coordinating die, and you know what? Now that I just did that, I like to color first. So I'm actually going to take that apart and color it. I like to color before I die cut because it's just easier to hold the paper in place. So we'll come back to that. I'm not going to color all of these images on camera. I'll just show you some of it. It will, you know, it's a little bit time consuming, so I won't take up too much of your valuable time. As I mentioned earlier, I absolutely love the tri-blend markers, but what's nice about these as an option for coloring is that they are very affordable. It can be pricey. It can be an investment to collect all of the marker colors. Now this is the Vivid or Bright and Vivid. There are several other collections as well. This is the one that came with the bundle, and it's perfect because these colors are going to match very well. So I am selecting the blues. We're going to use the yellow and the orange as well to color this in. Let me set these out of the way here. I really appreciate being able to customize the colors for these images so they coordinate so beautifully with your projects. And what I'm doing is I'm going to start with the blue on the bottom. So that's going to be like where the water is. And I will move back and forth between the blues. These are blending very nicely together so you can get that nice gradient of color. And I'm starting with the darkest on the bottom. I'll move to the medium shade of blue and then up into that more turquoise blue color. And as I mentioned, they are blending nicely. These are very soft and easy to use, and the colors are very vivid. So I'm definitely enjoying these pencils. My friend Jema Malmy just recently did a layout featuring these same stamp sets. I'll leave her video linked in the description box below. So if you're looking for more ideas and inspiration and creative ways to use these, head on over and check out her video as well. You're going to love it. I added a little bit of yellow and I'm topping it off with orange. I am going to leave the top of the letters white just to be different. Now, Jema also did this on hers. Outline the letters in black, so when you're fussy cutting them, it's much more forgiving. Plus, it's going to make these pop really well off the background. Just take a fine tip black marker. You don't have to be careful. Just thicken that edge and it'll make it so much easier. Okay, I went ahead and got these colored, the ones I'm going to die cut. I reapplied those metal dies and taped them down. Everybody's die cutting machine is different, so the principle's the same. You basically have plates that create a sandwich, they refer to it, but every machine is different and has different recommendations and different plates. So I have the Gemini Junior, which is an electric die cutting machine. I do really like it. It's been great, and with the amount of die cutting I do, it's nice to have the electric one. You just slide it in and go. So for my machine, it wants the cutting the up. So I flip them upside down. I put my top plate on, and you can see it's pretty beat up and well loved, and it will do some cracking and popping, and that's totally normal. So I just make my die cutting sandwich with the plates and then feed it into the machine. And I'm gonna turn the volume off because it's gonna be kind of loud. It's not that loud. It just is amplified on camera. Here, I'll make the sound effects for you. Just kidding. So now you have these fabulous die cut shapes. So easy and fast with these perfect clean edges just like so. And I love it. Now you can die cut or stamp and then die cut. You could die cut it first and then you don't have to worry about lining it up and then stamp the images. You know, it's personal preference. Okay, so I've got my layout base back in here, and still we're not sure, so I haven't cut anything down. And I've got all my ephemera that we've created, and with the stamps and coloring, and then this super cool title. It looks so good. I just love how this turned out. So what I'm thinking now, to get this centered, I can use the measurements on my Versamat up there, so I can see we're equal distance between the 3 and the 9. And I can't see my measurements because I haven't trimmed my paper down, but I like to dry fit everything to begin with anyway. So let's see how this looks right across the top here like I was envisioning. So I kind of start with the outside edges, and then you can just fill in, and that way you know your pieces are evenly spaced that way. But again, we'll get fussy when we go to actually adhere down the design. So that looks cute, and I was kind of thinking about this one down here, but you know what, I'm going to switch these because this photo has a lot more space down here that I can overlap something like this. That does look better. And then we're not covering up too much of my paddle board. I do want to bring in more of the black, so I die cut a circle out of black cardstock to mat this on. And I like the way that looks. So then we have these sunglasses. So I was kind of thinking maybe a diagonal, form with my embellishments. I could do something like that. Let's tuck this paddle behind. We could go like that, maybe put this here. I don't know if I love this over the pattern paper in the background. I am going to pause the camera and try a different configuration. So this is one idea, but let's try something else. Okay, here's another rough configuration of a layout we could do. I like the title on the wood grain pattern. I think it really kind of pops more, and I'm thinking I'm going to bring in the word fun, summer fun. So we could always put this up here, and then we do have that nice visual triangle. So yes, I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to cut down these pieces here, and I'll be right back. Okay, I just have a little strip of that stripe paper, so that's going to go over here, peeking out from underneath the wood grain. And then this one here is going to go like so with a 1/2 inch margin all the way around. And this is where that Versamat really comes in handy. So that is 7.5 by 11. 7.5 by 11 for this one here. And then this piece is 3, actually it's 3.25 by 12. And then that one I have about 1/2 inch showing of the stripe paper. I went ahead and inked up all of the edges with black, and that just brings in a little bit more of the black that we're accenting in this layout, and then we can bring these back in. So that one's going to sit right about there. I want to be able to have some areas on this pattern paper where you can actually read what the pattern's saying. Your brain will kind of put it together anyway, but I just wanted some actual bits of it showing. So this one's perfect. I did strategically cut this paper so that it had a whole, bit of the pattern and sentence on the bottom there. So let's go ahead and adhere this one. Look, here's a tip for you. When at first it doesn't stamp nicely, flip the paper over and stamp again on the other side. So whenever you see random, stamped images on the back of my papers, that's because it didn't turn out well the first time. Actually, I don't know if I want to do that yet. I might pop that one up. So I'm thinking about putting these sunglasses. I didn't show you these colored. Isn't that cool? I think they're so fun. And it's perfect because you have the mountains in it, which we are in the mountains. So there's palm trees in the word summer, but I'm okay with that. It does not have to be literal. Even though there's no palm trees up here where I call home, it still works because it has that fun summer vibe. So we're going to put these just like this. Make sure you have them in the right order. And I'm thinking about stamping the word fun underneath, so I'm not going to adhere those quite yet. And then we could put the paddle right here, kind of underlining the word fun. That might be fun. Let's see. Actually, it's going to be slightly off center. What if we move this over? That's okay. I think that's going to work. Then we have our little life jacket, and then this guy that I did not want to put adhesive on because I want to pop that up. We'll just cover up that adhesive there. You can tear this, but I like to cut it with my non-stick microtip scissors. I just like that nice clean edge there. So we'll cover this little guy with some foam tape. I am going to be kind of generous, so it's not going to stick down where I did stick that adhesive tape runner. Look, I talked about how you could cut it to fit perfectly, and then I cut it longer. Don't do that. You just trim that off. Okay, so that's just going to sit there for now. And then I do want to leave a little bit of room for journaling. So that might come in right here, but I could also write my journaling right here. It'll show up on that wood grain paper nicely. I do want to accent some of the orange color up here, so I cut a tag. I love tag dies because they just always seem to work. I'm going to sand this just to give it a little bit of distressing and character. And I'm going with the lighter side of Nectarine. Close to My Heart cardstock is two-toned, so you get the darker shade and then the lighter shade of the same color. It's really like having two colors in one. It's really nice. So I'm thinking of popping this little guy right up here just to kind of accent that orange, and then we can overlap our glasses. And yeah, we need some little bits and bobs, maybe some acrylic pieces. Let's work on our title. I'm gonna go dig through my stash and see what I have that'll work for the word fun. So I was looking through my stamps, and then I remembered I had these acrylic alphabets, and I thought, you know what, this is a good opportunity to use them because I have a bunch of acrylic. This isn't the best storage situation. I want to put my letters in maybe little bins, but yeah, I want to use this stuff up. My stamps I use all the time, so I thought it'd be fun to switch it up for these, and then I can bring in some acrylic arrows and things like that to go along with these letters. So I grabbed an F, a U, and an N for the word fun. Yeah, I think that's going to work perfectly underneath that title. I do like that. I have some acrylic arrows also. Now these are no longer available. They do have a different type of die cut that are arrows, so I'll leave those linked below. And I love them. You can use them on so many different projects. This one's kind of cool. Let's put this right here. That shows up nicely. I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera and get these pictures and stuff adhered down before I start bringing in all the little embellishments. Those are all adhered down, and I need something on the tag, so I was thinking maybe another little arrow. There's these cute little chevron arrows. We can maybe put 3 of these kind of going across the tag. I like how all of our arrows are pointing kind of across the layout. It just kind of directs your eye. Plus it's a nice textural element. That looks good. And then I wanted a little word sentiment, so I dug through my stash and came across my Wander card making stamp. Any of the outdoor themed stamps, I love them and use them a bunch. So I went ahead and stamped this So Glad We're Friends in Bluebird ink, because that is a featured color in this paper pack, and I wanted to bring out a little bit more of the blue, and I thought this was very appropriate for my friend and I. So that is one of my favorite things about stamps, is you can make your own word sentiment stickers and in any color you want. So this is still available. It's an older stamp set, but it is, as of filming this video, it is available. And I think that looks good. I'll go ahead and tape this down. I still need to address my journaling, so I'm leaning towards the little lower left corner with over the top of the wood grain paper. I think that is going to work well. I do have some enamel dots in my stash I also would like to add. They have that same lagoon color, and we'll finish off the tag just by putting one of the little enamel dots right over the hole. And then I do want to repeat them elsewhere on the layout, so I'll just add a couple maybe over here around this embellishment cluster in different sizes, and then some up here as well. Enamel dots are always fun little detail to add. Plus on water layouts, they kind of remind me of little water droplets, don't you think? I am going to draw a few lines with my T-square ruler. This is nice because it kind of clips onto the edge of the Versamat and you can get straight lines. It's a little tricky because I popped up that circle over there. So I'm just going to draw lines to tell my story. And for my story, my friend Bonnie and I, we wanted to do a 3-sport day. We were feeling rather energetic, I suppose. So in the morning, we started off with a 8-mile mountain bike ride to a lake. And then we decided to hike around the lake, which was 4 miles. And then for our 3rd sport, we were going to paddleboard, which we did end up doing. It was a close call. We got done with our hike and we were kind of like, oh my goodness, do we really want to blow up the paddle boards and do this? So the lake had this really cute little coffee cart, and we went and got ourselves a tasty coffee and kind of re-upped on energy and decided to go out on the lake. And we were so glad we did, because it was the end of the day and everybody had gone home, and it was so peaceful. It was like the perfect way to end the day, and it was actually rather relaxing. Her husband does like a 4-sport day every once in a while. So we're like, well, we want to do our own version of this, but we didn't have time to pack in the 4th sport. We were thinking about horseback riding because my son works at the pack station, which is super close to this lake, but there was just no way to squeeze it all in. So we have goals for next year. But that about wraps it up. I did erase those pencil lines, and let me hold this up so you can get a closer look at all of those stamped images. Aren't those fun? I think they add so much to the layout. And again, I know I say this all the time, but you can just color them perfectly. I love it. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and take a moment to hit that thumbs up button, and even better, share it with one of your crafty friends. Everything I used can be found in the description box below. And thank you so much for spending time with me. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon on YouTube. Bye.